the whole concept of unconditional acceptance of others, unconditional acceptance of self is the thing that makes SMART a little bit more unique compared to, well, REBT, the philosophy that's underneath SMART recovery. It's what makes it a little bit different to, say, cognitive therapy. This unconditional acceptance of self. Like, what does that? How does that show up in your conversations? How does that show up in your meetings? And how do you bring that philosophy to other people?
Well, I wrote a blog post for Smart on unconditional self acceptance, how my journey of unconditional self acceptance, and they actually published it on the website, which was pretty cool.
Nice.
So, I had a lot of guilt and shame over some of the things I had done in my active addiction. So, my journey consisted of like looking, kind of taking a step back and looking at my past self and talking to her like, I know she's in pain. I know all these things have happened to her and she did some things that don't align with my values now, but I can accept her and love her right where she is, and we can cry together and bring her to the present where, where I am now. And I have values that I have defined in my hierarchy of values, and I'm living by those values now. So I can tolerate that, yeah, I didn't always live according to the values that I have now, but I'm a different person now, and I am making better decisions, and I'm moving toward the life I want to live. Yeah, I did some things. I made some bad choices. I hurt a lot of people. Not that that's okay, but I can accept myself for who I am, and it's just part of my story. And if I if those things hadn't happened and I hadn't done some of those things, I wouldn't have the story that I have now that I can help other people with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, really good. Pam, how do you look at it when you're talking about unconditional self-acceptance, unconditional acceptance of others? How does that show up for you in your meetings?
Well, the thing that I find tricky to explain and to wrap my head around myself is the fact that unconditional acceptance does not mean I approve,
Hmm.
you know? So, that is something I don't know. It comes up a lot because a lot of people associate acceptance with approval, and it's just, I don't even know how to explain it right now, to be honest.
I know that shows up quite a bit in DBT because the skill that we bring to that is radical acceptance, right? Because
Right.
the when we're looking at the thing that we're trying to accept, a lot of people, like you say, have this belief, well, I don't want to accept that because therefore I'm saying it's okay. I'm saying it's all right
Hmm.
that that happened, right? When in actuality, what we're trying to accept most of the time, or where we start with the acceptance, is the why, not the what, right? Because
Right,
if we can
exactly.
accept the why, like why that person is doing that, what's the emotional experience that they're going through, what's the story that they've got about that particular situation, I can accept that why. Therefore, I'm removing the personalized story that I'm attaching to it, right? In other words, I'm the meaning that I'm attaching to this particular scenario is that you're doing this because you don't love me. Whereas in actuality, the reason that you're doing it is because you're emotionally distressed right now and you've got a different story activated in your system and it's got nothing to do with me,
Hmm.
right? I can accept that why. Now I can set a boundary around what's being done without the emotional connection to why it's being done, right? That's how that shows up for me. I don't know if that makes sense for you.
It makes perfect sense, and you explained it beautifully. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Aaron, what about you, man? How does it show up for you?
Oh, same way that you guys were describing there. For me, when Thomas was talking about learning to accept others before being able to accept himself, a part of me was like, but that's not possible. And then
Hmm.
I was like, oh, there's a curious part of me that thinks that it's not possible for Thomas to experience what he says he's experienced. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, I experienced that too when it comes to recognizing that I can like or tolerate or accept things that people do that I don't like easier than I can myself at times. And it's like you know what I mean? Like I would start to tolerate people misbehaving around me or disrespecting me. And it wasn't until I was able to stop them from doing that to me, that I could stop me from doing that to me. You know what I mean? And I get that, setting personal boundaries externally. And then recognizing, like when Jody was talking about, you know, my hindsight bias at times, you know, like that, the things I'd done, versus the parts of me that pop up today that are hard for me to accept. And when Stephen was saying exploring the why is where I'm at, in that there's parts of me that are self-aggrandizing that I don't like. There's parts of me that are attention seeking I'm not really particularly fond of. The need for external validation, the parts of me that can bully people or manipulate to get my way. These are the parts where I don't want them to perform, because they're not allowing me to be who I want to be. But rather than, you know, what do they say, like ostracizing or just trying to like put them off and say, this isn't who I am, I'm not that person. Well, obviously there's parts of me that are, and it's like, well, let's get curious with why they think they need to be this way.